What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this NFL showdown slate between the Steelers and the Bears. Cannot wait to break it down. Before we jump into the slate, guys, I just want to give a quick update on my health issue. Haven't been putting out content, the past week or so because I have officially been diagnosed with Bell's palsy. If you guys have noticed anything different with my face, I literally can't move the right side of my face from like here to here. Completely numb. Should be a recovery process of about a week to 2 weeks. Just bear with me. The only thing I'm really struggling with right now is just talking in long periods of time and honestly blinking a lot. You'll notice just because my eye, I can't close all the way sometimes because, for obvious reasons, can't move the right side of my face. So I'm going to try to cut this in sections so I don't get overwhelmed and just so my face doesn't hurt. So we're going to break this up. You guys will notice small cuts here and there, but I'll give you guys the content and just, if it bothers you, just cover the right side of your screen, left side of your screen. And let's jump into the slate. Also, before we get started, just want to talk about a giveaway that we'll be doing every Friday. We did this last season. I want to get back into it just because I want to give back to the community. I want to thank you guys for growing this channel. We're almost to 10K, so might as well just do a $25 giveaway every single Friday. We're going to be announcing the winner on live stream every single Friday. To be entered in that, all you need to do is be subscribed to the channel, like the video that I'm about to post here in a second, and also comment your favorite contrarian captain play for the slate. And again, the winner will be announced this Friday. Now, before my medical issue, I did a brief breakdown every single video, basically giving a rewind of what I did the previous slate. And since we're covering the NFL showdown slate, I'll show you guys what I did last slate because it gives you guys a good idea of what to expect in terms of lineup construction, how I prioritize my captain plays with my flex plays, and prioritize ownership and take advantage of it in smaller GPPs and also taking advantage of the lower ownership and bigger GPPs. So this was actually my double up lineup. As you can see, it all came down to lineup construction. Last night, there was a lot of people I wanted in my showdown, a cash lineup, and I had to prioritize guys like Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. They were probably going to be the highest scoring guys in the slate regardless. So I made sure because they were going to be high owned and probable to score the highest amount of points, I needed them in my lineup. Also, Darrell Henderson was another guy I wanted to prioritize. And to get those guys into my lineup, I needed to put AP in the captain spot. The only way that would work by getting those three guys and AP in the captain spot would be to fill with other guys that, I wasn't comfortable with landing on, but they just made the build work. I knew Matt Gay, anybody who's going to be a kicker on the showdown slate is usually pretty safe. And then also Van Jefferson was kind of my last piece. So to me, this lineup made a lot of sense getting in a very cheap value guy in the captain spot, also prioritizing a lot of the high-owned guys like Stafford, Kupp, Henderson, and then it all came together. This fortunately did cash. This was a double up lineup. I think I turned overall double up lineups like $70 into 140 just because the chalk did hit. But what happens when the chalk doesn't hit? You want to take advantage of the lower owned guys and also in terms of lineup construction and bigger GPPs. So as you guys can see here, I believe this contest was out of 140 people, maybe more. Yeah, 147 people. It was a 3 max, and I took advantage of the ownership here with Cooper Kupp. I knew he was going to be very high owned. He ended up being 76% owned, so I faded him in this lineup, with the small potential that he could bust on the slate. As you guys know, the Rams underperformed drastically in this contest, so Cooper Kupp obviously did as well. Robert Woods actually had a pretty good game. I know his team didn't, but he actually had a good game. So in terms of lineup construction, I prioritize Robert Woods. You always pair the quarterback in the flex position with the captain, especially if you're putting a captain wide receiver. I came back with Ryan Tannehill, Adrian Peterson, Matt Gay, Van Jefferson. Again, those guys just kind of fit the build in terms of my medium projections, and that was a very contrarian lineup, and because of that I finished second here in this bigger GPP. It's technically a medium-sized GPP. Turned $15. I think this was a $15 or $20 buy-in into 230. And here were some of my other lineups that I also put in there. This lineup, I didn't really get too contrarian in the captain spot. Cooper Kupp was the obvious captain spot if you're looking at it in terms of ownership. I also paired him with Stafford, but I came back with Matt Gay and Bullock because I knew a lot of builds would not have a double kicker build. So if this turned into a kicker game, which it kind of sort of did because Matt Gay kicked a lot of field goals, I would take advantage of that. I barely cashed in here. I think I turned $20 into 40 here. And then my last GPP lineup, this one did not place, but I got very contrarian here. I did favor A.J. Brown and the small chance that the Titans would beat the Rams and use A.J. Brown a lot. and obviously he did not have a great game, but I did get different there. Also had Bullock in there. I did not like the value on this slate, so I used a lot of kickers. But that was pretty much it. Overall, had a very successful showdown slate, and we'll talk about lineup construction here at the very end of the video. Also on dgfantasy.com, I'll be putting out my favorite captain plays for GPPs, my favorite cash game players in terms of flex ownership, all that ownership projections, actual projections, and all that will be provided for about $20 a month. If you guys want to sign up on dgfantasy.com, all the links are below. But now let's go ahead and dive into the Chicago versus Pittsburgh Steelers slate. Let's go ahead and focus on the Chicago side. Actually, before we do any of that, let's go over the over-under here. Right now, it is a 39, which is very, very low when we compare this to other NFL games. If you just compare it to the main slate, I don't think any game was below 40 points. So yes, defenses are definitely in play for the slate. I always talk about defenses not being in play. I believe last night a defense did make the optimal. I don't know if it made the actual optimal. I need to go back and actually look at that. But it came pretty close because there was a defensive touchdown scored by the Titans. If you think this game is going to be under 20 points, like total, then yes, defenses are definitely in play. The game total is still at a 39, so you guys already know my stance on defenses. In very low scoring games, the ownership's always very inflated. So as you can see, the Steelers at 5K are 27.1% owned, which is actually pretty high for a defense. Keep in mind, this is big GPP ownership. And then the Bears at $2,600 are also 19% owned. So I think that ownership is a little bit too high for me. I will be full fading the defenses. Again, very low likelihood that they'll make it into the optimal. But yeah, let's go ahead and start at the quarterback position here with the Chicago Bears. It's going to be Justin Fields. He is carrying 35.4% ownership. I don't necessarily think you need Justin Fields in cash, but if you do believe that the game script is going to favor Chicago, right now they are 7-point underdogs, then yeah, Justin Fields is going to have to get it going here. I do consider him more of a GPP play, and especially if you want to pair a wide receiver here with Justin Fields. Moving over to the running back position, we have a little bit of news here on David Montgomery. He is showing 25.9% ownership. I think that's a little high. He's going to be on the snap count. It looks like the Chicago Bears have announced that they're going to give him a little bit of a run here in this game. They're going to probably ease him into action. I still do think that Khalil Herbert's going to get a majority of the carries. Regardless, their price tags are very, very high here. $8,400 for Montgomery and also Khalil Herbert at $8,200. He's actually projected higher in terms of PrizePicks projections. So I do favor Khalil Herbert, but again, these guys are just going to be GPP plays in my opinion because of their price tag. Now switching over to the weird wide receiver position here for the Chicago Bears. Darnell Mooney technically is projected 9. Same thing with Allen Robinson. They're both projected at 9. They're so inconsistent. This is totally a dysfunctional offense in the passing game. These wide receivers have been boom or bust all season long, and I'm mainly talking about Darnell Mooney. Allen Robinson just has... I mean, these numbers are just very, very sad to see. You know, being a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, it's really sad to see Allen Robinson not performing here on a different roster. These two wide receivers are just going to be GPP options in my opinion. I think Darnell Mooney fits a lot more builds, so therefore I do prefer him in cash if you happen to land on him. But both these wide receivers are going to be very, very volatile. And then last but not least, we have Marquise Goodwin. Too high of a price tag for me as well. $4,200 at 7.3% ownership. I'd really only consider these wide receivers for GPPs, but as a last piece, I don't hate it. And again, I'm just talking about Darnell Mooney. And then last but not least, we have the tight end picture here with Cole Kmet at 16.2% ownership. Also a GPP option. At his price tag, I guess he's the most appealing out of the wide receivers and tight ends. He'd still have to get to about, 11, 12 points to really hit that price point. We only have him projected at 6 points. So showing his ownership, again, these guys are just mainly GPP options. They are definitely not a safe route to go. And then Jesse James at 3K, also going to be a little bit overpriced. We haven't projected at 1 fantasy point. He's boom or bust. He caught a touchdown last week, and that's really the only time when he'll cover his price tag in terms of volume. We always consider kickers on showdowns, like you saw in my breakdown earlier. Carlos Santos here at 5 projection. This game script doesn't favor them just because they are the underdog, so I do prefer the kicker on the other side. However, if they do keep it close and this is a kicking game, then yes, I do like landing on Santos. I think he fits a lot of builds as well, so I do consider him cash viable. However, I do prefer the kicker on the other side of the ball. And now switching over to the Pittsburgh Steelers here, we have Ben Roethlisberger at 10.6K. I think he's one of the more obvious plays on the slate in terms of cash. Right now he's showing 43.3% ownership, 16-point projection, so I do like him here for cash. I think he needs to be a focal point. I wouldn't put him in the captain spot because I don't think he's going to be that high end for captain, just because builds aren't really coming together that way. But right now at 10.6K, really do like him here at 43.3% ownership for cash. At the running back position, it's going to be hard to imagine a scenario where Najee Harris does not make the optimal unless he gets injured. This guy, in terms of volume, has been getting the most out of any running back in the league. 26, 24, 23, 15, 14 carries a game, and we're not even talking about his targets yet. He's getting 3, 7, 5, and 7, 19 targets back in week 3. So this guy is just the entire offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he should get more run in this game because, you know, this is a low-scoring affair. They should be ahead most of the game, and he should just get a lot of carries. So yes, Najee Harris is the overall best play in the slate. There's no secret there. Right now, we have him projected at 20 points. At least that's what the industry averages have him at. 53.6% ownership. I think he'll be even higher owned in the captain spot. I would be surprised if he's anything less than 80% owned on the slate. Switching over to the wide receiver position here, we have 2 wide receivers to really hone in on. Deontay Johnson at 16 points is what we have him projected at. Also a very good cash option if the Steelers aren't running the ball through Najee Harris or passing to Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool. And yes, I do think that they are cash considerations. Deontay Johnson has definitely been the more reliable target, I would say, for Ben Roethlisberger at 11.2K. I'm trying to pull up his game log. It's taking a second to load. I mean, 15 points consistently the past 3 weeks, so I really do like him here. He's getting plenty of targets, just like Najee Harris, and they really are this entire offense. And then Chase Claypool is their deep threat. I also don't mind him. More of a GPP option just at his price tag, but I also don't mind him as a last piece in cash. I don't think he'll be landing there. But again, 31.3% ownership is teetering on that line. Could make or break you if you put Chase Claypool in the lineup, and he does boom or bust. And then we also have these 2 other wide receivers that are technically in the mix here. If we take a look at the snap counts going back to week 8, we have James Washington here on the field, 46% of snaps, along with McLeod at 15. Technically, they both project the exact same. I don't really get those projections. I think James Washington should be projected a little bit more. But that being said, McLeod and James Washington going to be more GPP options. Unless they catch a long ball, they really aren't paying off those price tags. James Washington would have to get to 10 points to hit that. He's only hit that 1 time this season. And Ray McLeod at $2,200 would just be a GPP option, in my opinion, just because he's on the field. He's really not on the field, only about 15% of the snaps. And then last but not least, we have the tight end position. And this is where I find the best value. I know it's very tough to get to any value guys here on the slate because none of them really make sense. These are 2 very top-heavy teams. They rely on a couple people. Then outside of those couple people, they really just don't. Pratt Fairmouth at 23.1% at 7K. Definitely don't mind him as a last piece in GPPs. But again, at 7K, he really has to get to 14 points. And he's done that. He did that last week, but that was the only week where he did that. And he's the main tight end here in this offense now. So don't mind him here as a GPP play, but for cash, definitely not. I don't have any interest here. But Zach Gentry, also not that bad of an option here at $1,800. I think this is a viable option just because of the amount of volume he got. He got 5 targets last game with him being the tight end number 2. And I think he can easily cover this price tag here. He got 3 receptions for 39 yards last game. And I think that this makes the most sense in terms of lineup construction, especially if you're looking for a value play. We do have a kicker to talk about. Boswell is probably my favorite value play in the slate, 3.8K. Again, they should find themselves in field goal range a lot more often than not. Chris Boswell also historically has been doing well this season, averaging 8.1 points per game, which is what we're going to project him at. He's just my favorite overall play, and he fits a lot of builds. And that will wrap up my breakdown, guys. Let's go ahead and go over lineup construction. So what I do is I like to crunch based on my projections, a bunch of different lineups starting on 5,000% randomness. And this gives me a good idea of what the public is going to do in terms of cash and what they're going to do in GPPs. And it looks like a lot of builds are favoring Chris Boswell based on my projections. And same thing. They're very balanced builds. They're trying to get into studs with Deontay Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Najee Harris. So if you guys look at a lineup specifically here, Boswell's the captain, Santos is in there, and then we have Mooney, Ben Roethlisberger, all the studs, Deontay Johnson, and Najee Harris. I think this is going to be a very safe build and something you should easily get to in cash. If you're not doing something like this, you should probably go Najee Harris in the captain spot, try to get Deontay Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger, and then look for a very cheap guy. But no cheap guys really make too much sense as of right now. So those are the 2 different routes I would go as of right now in cash. And then for GPPs, how I would get different, Deontay Johnson is going to be lower owned in the captain spot. He's also making for some very awkward builds, so I do like him. And then, of course, if you're willing to go down to a running back like David Montgomery, he's making for a very awkward build. He doesn't project well. He's showing up in 1% of my builds in terms of the captain spot. And also Khalil Herbert. So those guys are probably my 2 favorite contrarian captains. And then the rest of these guys are going to be pretty spread out in terms of ownership. And now let's talk about my favorite PrizePick pick here on the slate. If you guys haven't signed up for PrizePicks, first of all, what are you doing? Enter code using DGF for 100% match up to $100. Helps us out, helps you guys out, and we give a free pick away on every single breakdown. My favorite pick is going to be Najee Harris, 20 over. He's hit the over of 20 in the past 5 weeks. He should get more volume in this game. I think this is going to be a heavy dose of Najee Harris yet again, and I just really like this fantasy point projection of 20 points. And that will wrap up my breakdown, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. I do apologize for the medical issue. Hopefully that gets cleared up soon. I am starting to feel a little bit better, so a little bit of progress here. I'm just waiting to get those nerves back in my cheek. But until then, guys, thank you so much for the support. If you did enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.